When I think of Paul Hellermann, I think of a gentleman. I think of someone who doesn't put himself out there in an ego kind of driven way, but someone who was quietly there managing the shop.
It reminded me of a father figure. When anybody had any problems, they would go and talk to Paul.
I had the pleasure of working with Paul for 20-some years. Paul is a hard worker, loyal.
He was such a gentle man. He never, ever got angry, ever. And everybody brought their problems to him, and he solved them all. He had a great sense of humor, and the clients loved him, and we all loved him. Everybody in this company loved this guy. He was just great.
He has an amazing level of patience and serenity and calm and ability to not get frazzled.
Paul helped make it a place where you always wanted to come to work. When you had a challenge or a problem and you talked to Paul about it, he always made it feel like there was never something that was insurmountable.
I think there was always a sense of comfort that we may have a problem here or there, but Paul either has it handled or will be there to help figure out the solution.
He was dedicated to his job. I would come to the office on my way to the yard, 6 o'clock in the morning, Paul was there. I would leave 8 o'clock at night, Paul was there. And I used to say to Paul, you're the hardest working president I ever seen of any company.
Paul is the guy that can do every job in the building, and done every job in the building.
You know, you always see Paul walking around, not afraid to do anything. He might have been our chief operating officer, but you wouldn't be afraid to go downstairs, make a copy, open the door, greet someone at the door, and really kind of a great face of the organization.
There was not a single job that we were involved in through the years that Paul didn't have some influence on. And that influence was always just a kind of a welcome sight. And he always had everybody's back.
He has a very quiet way to lead by example. Like at the different grand openings that we've attended for various projects, he doesn't stand up and take the credit for it. He gives the credit to the day-to-day people that were there working through the project and applauds them, not taking the applause just for himself.
I've known Paul since I started my company nearly 25 years ago. I'll talk to him, he goes, how's it going? A lot of people say, how's it going, but they really don't want an answer. He goes, how's it going? And you really have to tell him how it's going. And in some cases, he was able to help. And I remember a couple times in particular when I said, well, funds are a little tight, we're waiting on a few jobs. He goes, let's find out what jobs you're waiting on and why the holdup is. He really tries to solve problems.
The thing about Paul that I always appreciated, even as assistant manager, I was brand new. What did I know about construction, right? But he treated me with great respect and friendship, and you have to admire that a great deal. That's a true leader.
One fond memory of Paul was meeting Paul on campus outside a construction project that we'd had some challenges with. There was a very young project manager that was on site, and Paul shared with that young individual that everything you're gonna learn on this job, you're gonna not possibly see again in the future. Take advantage of every one of those opportune moments, and you'll learn a lot from that experience. And I think that's important because we're in the education business, and so when you view another outside profession in a different field that's doing teachable moments, I think that's important. And it showed that leadership style that I think he has.
I always enjoyed working with Paul Hellermann because he was the ultimate professional. He brought a level of expertise to our relationship, which I found refreshing, and the fond memories would be on the golf course. We had a good time. It was always fun and funny. We were both in it to see if we could beat each other, absolutely. But we had more of a mutual admiration society. When one of us would have a good shot, we'd go good shot because we had a lot of bad shots too.
I think of Paul Hellermann almost as a mentor because when we were young architects, he was somebody who we would look to for guidance on projects. And I can see the people that he's mentored in Bulley Andrews, I can see his influence.
When I started here almost 17 years ago, I was new to the construction business. Paul was a seasoned veteran, and Paul was always, always around, always willing to help, and just was really someone that really taught me the business. And if you had a question, his door was always open and really always there to support you in any way.
Paul was really a mentor for me. He's a good friend. I was kind of his sidekick for a long time on a lot of work pursuits, so I was constantly in an interview with Paul. And one day went to a job interview. This is probably 10 years ago, and it was kind of a long shot. We didn't have real high hopes for it. We walked into the interview and there was 15 people waiting for us, like a firing squad. And our superintendent froze in the middle of the interview, and our project manager was just overwhelmed. We kind of just laughed it off. We weren't too worked up about it, and sure enough, by the time we got back to the office, they called to tell us we got the job. So I always think about that interview experience with Paul.
From my internship all the way up till now, there's definitely been mentors along my path, starting with Paul Hellermann. When I started, Paul took the time with me to make sure that I was comfortable and involved, and I don't think that's something that you're going to find at every other business.
Paul is like a father to me, definitely a mentor, one of the best bosses anybody could ever have, and he's taught me so much. Paul's just been a great leader for this company and for me personally. And, if you ever are lucky enough to meet someone like Paul once or twice in your entire career, you're lucky.
Paul is, he's a one-of-a-kind guy who's been able to kind of take the mantle of a family business. And although his name is not Bulley, Paul, he embodies everything that they stand for. And just a quality man, a good friend, a great leader.
Paul was a very talented man, and I miss him. We all miss him.